Mike Briggs is our marketing analyst this week. Things are slowly looking up for cattle producers as a record fall harvest moves to market. Input prices have dropped dramatically from 2012 levels. As an example, UNL's Cornhusker Economics listed corn at $4.42 a bushel in Nebraska City for September 27th. A year ago, it was $3.02 higher. While that makes a huge difference, beef demand could still be a concern as tight supplies of cattle will likely be around for at least the next year. In the meantime, there may be, for the first time in a while, some profit to be had. When we talked with Mike Wednesday afternoon, we started by asking for his thoughts as the feedlot moved through September and into October.
Well, we've started to see an increase of cattle coming into the feed yard. As corn has gone down, it's given the feeder a little more opportunity to maybe carve out a little bit of a margin, so people are starting to get back into buying some cattle. That margin opportunity is maybe waning a little bit because as the cash market started to try to climb higher and corn keeps going down, people are pushing a little harder after the cattle.
Yeah, there has been a nice little cash feeder rally here, right?
Yes, there has. Yes, there has. And I think it'll probably continue as long as corn goes down and the live cattle kind of stay in there.
Last time when we were here, we talked about how many market-ready cattle would be here in September and October. How do you think that's fleshing out?
You know, there were some people, I being one of them, thought there was going to be an awful lot of cattle that were going to come to the market at a time where typically beef demand is really bad, and I really thought they'd hammer this market up. The cattle really weren't there. So consequently, we didn't beat this live market up as bad as I thought and some other people thought we would do, and have actually started to grind it higher, which is good because that means there's at least a little bit of demand in there. You know, as we go forward, so does that mean we've started to hit our smaller numbers and numbers are just going to continue to get smaller from here on out? I think that's quite possible. Now that does not guarantee higher prices. It does guarantee a smaller beef supply, so you know, maybe do grind these prices higher as demand hangs in there.
Yeah, and that really brings up a big concern in demand and what the consumer is willing to pay, because if there's cheaper corn, the pork guys and the chicken guys can increase much more rapidly than the beef guys can, and that means that their meat is going to be cheaper. Is it a real concern that at some point you could price yourself out of that market?
Oh, absolutely. We already have. I mean, chicken and pork are so much cheaper. We already have. Beef is going to become, unfortunately, a luxury item, I'm afraid. Now, I've seen some ads where the retailer's trying to keep hamburger down there, and that's what most of beef moves like is hamburger. So, you know, maybe we'll keep that going. It's going to be really interesting as we go forward and along on those hamburger nines, because you're not going to have the cow slaughter you've had. We may have to start grinding up muscle cuts to provide hamburger. That's going to chew through a lot more cattle than you typically would too. So it's really going to be interesting going forward. I know everybody makes a big deal about getting short cattle. Well, I want to actually see what happens, and we're going to see what the consumer's really going to pay, because he's got a lot of cheaper alternatives.
Any opportunity to place cattle now and make a profit?
There's spots, you know, you're still kind of in a situation if you really want to go out there and feed the Cadillac cattle and really try to do, you know, a first-rate deal. That's not really going to be a winner for you probably on paper right away. But there's some spots out there where you can get some cattle bought and get some things done.
That has to be the first time in a while you've been able to actually have that.
Oh yeah, ever since corn got over $6, there's been virtually nothing. And that's what it's all about. It's all about feed costs and how cheap we can put pounds on. And now we've got an opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see how much cheaper corn can get, because I know yields are very good. So I think the crop might be bigger than what the USDA anticipates, but we'll see.
Tell me what your gut says on that. There hasn't been too much corn out around here, so if you're buying cash, is there an opportunity to go a little lower?
Well, the big thing, we need some more corn so we can take the basis away. The basis, especially in this area with all the ethanol plants, the basis is really still out of line because there's not enough supply of corn. Once we get enough supply of corn, the basis will be the first thing to leave, and that's going to lower your cash corn and give you an opportunity. I don't know how much lower the board can go until maybe the government comes out and says, hey, there's a lot more corn out here than we thought.
How strong has the export market been for beef?
The export market has not been bad. You know, it was kind of waning there a little bit, but it's kind of come back a little bit. And I think so long as the foreign economies do okay, they want our beef. And I think the export market's going to hang in there, provided there's not another thing going on like what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, a shutdown could really sort of shake things up, or a major shakeup in the dollar could be a problem.
Yes, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as we go forward. The irresponsibility in Washington is just coming to an incredible head. It's going to be interesting to see if anybody is
smart enough.
There you go. Smart
I think
enough.
it's more fact than opinion at this point. I think you're in the general population.
They've got to do something, then they've got to do something smart. Yeah.
So we're close enough to 2014 that can you start to maybe see some sustained profitability here in the months ahead?
That's a great question, and I just don't know, because I think there's still going to be such an incredible amount of pressure on the feeder cattle market because there's so much feed bunk out here. How many people want to step out here and get after it yet? I know the corporates are staying in there, and I think the farmer feeder's going to be a real force in there because his corn's going to be worth half what it was last year, and he might decide he's just going to feed it. So I think there's going to always be a lot of upward pressure on that feeder market, and that's going to make it tough to carve out a margin.